today's research launch on the path of research commercialization, exploring technology licensing and startups. So this is the student requirement. Several students had requested this topic. Then we organized this view. As these students, researchers, you can suggest any topic according to your requirement. Then we can arrange those topics in further research launches. So, at the University of Moratuwa, the enterprise, our technology transfer office, play a crucial role in protecting intellectual property, fostering industry collaboration, and supporting the creation of startups. Today, we will explore the transformative potential of patents and startups as key outcomes of graduate research. Okay, let me introduce today's resource panel firstly. Dr. Ajit Pascual is a senior lecturer and former head of the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering, also former director, Center for Information Technology Services at the University of Moratuwa. He is also the founder and CEO of Paradigm Technologies, which develops products in high-performance hardware, accelerated, deep packet inspection-based network products, and engage in high-end electronic product design. At present, he serves as the Director Enterprise at the University of Moratuwa and also is the immediate past president of Sri Lanka Electrical and Electronic Manufacturers and Exporters Association. He also serves as a member of advisory committee related to electrical and electronic industry at the Export Development Board and at the Ministry of Industries. He received his BSc Engineering degree with first-class honors from the University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka in Electronic and Telecommunication Engineering in 1993, and MH and PhD degrees from the University of Tokyo, Japan in Computer Vision in 1998 and 2001 respectively. So you are warmly welcome to our research launch. Our next resource person is Amali Hettige. She is the manager consultant at the University Business Linkage Cell, the technology transfer unit of the University of Moratuwa. With over 4 years of specialized experience in intellectual property management, licensing, negotiation, and technology transfer, Amali plays a vital role in bridging the gap between academic research and industry. Amali is also a dedicated educator, contributing to IP education session as a resource person and lecturing on intellectual property and IP management in university modules and short courses. Her commitment to IP education extends from the elementary school level to university students. Ms. Amali holds a BSc Special in Molecular Biology and Biotechnology from the University of Peradeniya and a Master's in Natural Resources Management. She has completed extensive IP-related training, including PR search, patent drafting, and IP management. Ms. Amali, you also warmly welcome to today's research launch. Okay, so our launch open. Then, sir, can I ask a question to open this session?
Yes.
What is the link between research and commercialization, and why do we not talk much about research commercialization in Sri Lanka?
Thank you, Nani, for that question. I think Amali can show. I think a couple of days back, we received this latest statistics about the research conducted in Sri Lanka. And as you can see, the 3 top universities has different in different areas. They rank number 1. For example, Moratuwa in top 10%, like top tier journals, and scholarly outlook Peradeniya, and the Colombo has the highest impact. So what does it really mean? I mean, like, it means like the key university in Sri Lanka, they're actually conducting a lot of research, and the research outcome actually gets appreciated globally as well. So when you talk about research, the definition of research, if you look at it, I mean, you are contributing, you are coming up with something completely new. For example, if you are to publish in a top-tier journal, you always actually start with basically say, okay, these are the key contribution of my research in this particular research paper. And those research papers or contributions get evaluated by the domain experts in that particular field, what we call peer reviewers. And when what you claim as your contributions might not sometimes actually be accepted by the domain experts, saying that okay, this has been done before. But I say it is accepted, and then only you get actually accepted in a top-tier journal publication. So when a contribution is novel, and when it is accepted by the domain experts and the peer reviewers that it is novel, that it is of the knowledge base that we already have, that you have contributed to the extending the knowledge base. So when something is novel, something is new in this knowledge base, another way of actually looking at it is that novelty has some kind of market potential or economic impact. And so anything novel might not actually contribute to the economy directly as such, but there is a significant chance that those novel contributions actually might contribute to the social impact and economic impact as well. So that is the starting point of commercialization. If your contributions or if your claim novelties have economic impact, and that's the starting point of commercialization. And coming back to this question number 2, which is why actually we do not talk that much about commercialization as such. As you can see in the statistics, I mean, lot of research being done in Sri Lanka. But if you look at like what is the fraction of this research that have been commercialized, I mean, I would say almost like negligible compared to the total research outcome. I mean, there's obviously some key commercializations are there, but as a fraction of overall research conducted in Sri Lanka, the amount actually is almost like negligible. And what might be the reason? So the reason actually that we see, like again, basically the way that we look at things, for researchers in Sri Lanka, particularly the graduate students who are embarking on their MPhils or PhD research, the primary KPI or primary goal that they want to achieve is a research paper, and that is a graduation requirement. And a patent or IP actually is not part of their goals as such. So when you go for your goals, I mean, it is mandatory, right? Because you can't actually graduate unless you have, let's say, for example, you have fulfilled the research paper publication, maybe in a top-tier journal or top-tier conference. And if those goals are not met, then your graduation will not be fulfilled as such. So first thing is that we do not consider a patent or IP application as part of that the overall progress. So if you can actually start talking about it, because you are talking about novel. Research paper is all about novel contributions. And if you look at that novelty from a commercial perspective, and the students and their supervisors can look at this novelty from a commercial perspective, then we can actually find the link between the research and commercialization. So I think that coming back to the question as what is the reason why we do not actually talk that much about it, basically, I think as the primary reason is that it is not actually part of their KPI as such, part of their goals. The goal actually is purely a research outcome, a research paper publication. And so the purpose of this, the awareness session actually is, this session is to create, there is a parallel path towards research. I mean, with the research paper submission, you can also actually look at the possibility of commercialization. It does not mean that every research is commercializable as such, but to make everybody aware, parallel to your paper submission, without that much of additional effort, you can look at that parallel path. And also, there's one thing that we want to really highlight. So if a researcher basically is willing to apply for a IP protection or intellectual property protection, in addition to the research paper, they will have an IP. For example, like a patent or a trademark or industrial design or copyright. And that once you get it granted, once the patent act is granted, you are eligible, you have a legal right to call yourself an inventor. And not only the legal right, but you are recognized as an inventor. But if you just publish the research paper, then you're not actually really called inventor as such, but a researcher or research scientist. But with the patent being granted, or like industrial design being granted, and you have that eligibility to call yourself formally an inventor and also be recognized as an inventor as well. Then the question actually is is just getting a patent sufficient? We say, okay, the research paper publication is a goal for a researcher, and getting a patent can also be a goal, but is it sufficient? In the research paper process, I think at the point of submission, once it's accepted and published, and your work is actually almost done. But when it comes to patents, like if you acquire a patent, and if you stop there, I think it doesn't make that much of sense, because patents are not there to basically get the patent like paper and put it in your drawer and actually keep it for safety. It's not like that. So to get the economic and the societal impact, we have to go that extra mile. So that, I would say, the primary difference between a research paper and a patent, even though the effort actually is parallel and almost like similar. Because if you are taking a certain amount of time to draft a research paper and get it reviewed number of times and refine and basically submit for a top-tier journal, with the same effort, already effort is done, and with a little additional effort, you can also actually submit a patent. And this is not mandated as such. We'll talk about it later on. But with a minimal additional effort, you can actually submit a patent or IP application as well. But as I said, there need to be a commitment from the researcher's point of view that I intend to go beyond just getting a patent. Because otherwise what will happen actually is we will have a number of patents filed and just kept in the cupboard without having or realizing the true economic potential that they have. So I want to basically again touch on one very important thing that I see generally in Sri Lanka. If you look at the globally reputed universities and the difference between them and us, I mean, they publish their research, but they all also commercialize a significant part of the research as well. And because of that, the people see the economies of the people and the industry, they see that research actually has impacted them also.
So is it mandatory in foreign countries?
No, not mandatory at all. I mean, it's not that's the question that we need to answer next. Absolutely not mandatory. It's a complete discussion of the researcher and the student whether to submit a patent or not. But the research paper submission for them is mandatory, because otherwise you're not going to get you're not graduated. Now, the basic idea is that I think, as I said at the beginning, I think the primary reason actually is lack of awareness. What exactly is IP? I mean, is my whatever the work that I'm doing as research, is it something that can be protected as such? When a research paper is submitted and it is published, it's open to public, and there's no protection as such. Anyone actually can make use of that result. But if an IP application is submitted and once that is granted, it becomes public. But then you have the legal right to economically use it, basically generate future revenue. But that the primary responsibility of that actually lies with the researcher, because you need some additional commitment to go that extra mile of converting your lab setup or lab prototype, which actually resulted in a research paper, to go all the way up to a commercially valuable research output. And since we talk about awareness, I will let Amali to talk about the different type of IP, so that you will get a more holistic view of what we are talking about.
Yeah, for that, I think first of all, I like to just let you know what is an IP before going to the right. So basically, if we have any creations of mind, we talk them as IP. So basically, inventions, even what you are writing, what you are designing, everything, even tag marks, symbols, names, also everything can be intellectual property. What is the difference is, though we have a IP with us, it is not a right there. You need to have in a way to make it a right. So anything the legal right resulting from intellectual activity, it can convert to intellectual property right. So there are two references. When you have a research, yeah, that is your intellectual property, but it is not right. Not right means when you get that right, you already received that exclusive rights. So under that exclusive rights, only the owner gets the rights to prevent others from either using, either using it, either make it, or either sell, distribute, or even an owner can stop import the same invention or your design as well based on this right. That is the difference. Because other than that, I know there are some misunderstanding that yes, you already, even you have an research, yes, it is your intellectual property, but without get that rights, without get that application is done, it not converted to a intellectual property right. That is number one thing. We need to highlight the difference between those two. And the next is, what is important is you need to know in this right, there is not only one thing as right, because we already talk about patents, because we know, most of us know that word patents is there. But if you know this, if you see this one, you other than that patents, there are designs, trademark, copyrights, so many are there. But the difference is each of these types will protect different ways. For an example, if it is something related to technical information, technical data, or if we are giving some technical solution to a problem, it is basically protected under design, sorry, patent. But if you need to cover the outer appearance of your device, it is go under industrial design. But if you need to cover your software, better to go for copyright. So you need to identify, there are so many ways of protections. There are different types of IP. You need to identify what is best for you. But in here, during this discussion, we are more focused on patents, because we believe most of the researches we are doing in University of Moratuwa, basically there are so many contents related to the technical parts. Technical jargon is more. So basically in the technical jargon, so many novel features are there. That's why we are focusing patents on here. But other than that, we all need to know there are different type of IPs still we can apply. And the next thing is, we want to know, though it is novel, it is enough to go for a patent. So basically, to highlight as a patent or to identify as a patent, even the patent office is, this is a global norm. Any country, even you are applying in Sri Lanka, even you are applying in USA, anywhere, this is the way they are checking. Just they are checking for the novelty. Novelty means it is not existing when the day of your application. So anything, it must be not known by the world. That is how, not within the Sri Lanka, it is checked all around the world and then find whether it is novel or not. That's one thing. Second is industrial applicability. That is, it need to have industrial application. There is a little difference in some other countries. They are not only allowed the application, some beneficial parts also there for some countries. That is the only difference. But for Sri Lanka, we are just concerned that if there are some applications, still we are granted the patent. The third one is involve an inventive step. That means it is not obvious to the person of average skill of a particular field. That means, for an example, if you make some composite chemical compound and then it is checked, that not obviousness is checked based on the knowledge of average knowledge of a chemist. Comparison is something like that. It must be something not near change. For an example, something very similar, just separate between the periodic tables, the elements are changed. That won't grant a patent because it is obvious. The same field people know this can be easily done without doing so many researches. So those things are not granted patent. Other than that, if it is novel, it has an inventive step and industrial applicability, the patent grant will be given. This is how the patent officers are doing their patent search. And to find this novelty, this is what we are doing. So basically, this is called as prior art search. So prior arts are anything disclosed prior to your application date. That's why it's mentioned as priority date. I think everyone is here, those names here and there. But anyway, this priority date means the date you are filing your patent application. So before that date, anything is disclosed to the public, it is belongs to the prior arts. So what we are is trying, what as a technology transfer office, what we are trying to do is when someone come to us, then they need to apply for a patent. What we are doing is we are check this prior art, and we are doing this prior art search and check whether there is a real novelty. Because when we are doing researches, we think, yeah, this is novel. So what we are doing is we are doing the literature review and fine. But maybe beyond the literature review, there are so many patents and so many other things are there as well around the world. So what we are doing is not only we are checking with the research papers, we are checking with the other granted and even published patents applications as well. So we are checked based on that, and we identify whether there is a true novelty or not. Because that is the first thing we need to identify whether there is a novelty before doing the application. After we applied our patent, the patent officers also doing the same. They are also doing the patent priority search, prior search, and they will find whether there is a novelty. That is how the process is happening. So basically, if you are going to see, these are some of the free databases, as we have some of the subscription-based databases as well to do this prior search. And this is the way we are doing. This is called as a traffic light identification system. This one, what we are doing, after doing our prior search, we identify what are the close priors. And then we write what are the key features of your invention. And then we'll check, cross-check each and find whether it is green means that feature is fully novel. But some features are not fully novel. Then based on this table, we can identify whether we can go for a patent or not. This is a simple way of doing that. And this is what we are practicing within our unit as well. So basically, those are the things I need to highlight regarding this page.
Can I add something to that one? So what you see in this traffic light actually identification system is in a research paper, you like set out your contributions, your key contributions. So all these key contributions can map into a particular feature, or let's say, for example, if that can be converted to a product or service or process, they can be converted to a particular feature, a novel feature. And what this system actually, what this shows is whether that feature has been reported in the past in all type of databases, like not just the research papers, but all the patent application, and there'll be comprehensive research worldwide databases to find out whether that feature actually appears anywhere in different countries. So once you do this search, you can be assured that if all are green, most of them are green, then you have a guarantee that your patent application is going to be accepted, because that are all now. And this is a self-evaluation system. What we are actually doing as a technology transfer office is that we facilitate this process and obviously guide them as well. So the researcher themselves, or the inventor, because researcher is inventing something, the inventor themselves can actually evaluate whether my claims are really novel or not. And once you get the confidence that okay, most of the things are green, or some things are basically yellow, no, nothing red as such, but then definitely it means a patent actually can be applied, and also patent, most likely will be granted, because you yourself actually can see after thorough search all of the databases that the novelty actually is there. And also I have to highlight one more thing. Like there are a lot of, let's say, for example, product features or novel outcomes that do not appear in the research paper or research literature. Not every product feature is a research outcome that is published research outcome as such. But actually, you might see these features in a paper. You might not actually see something as published literature, research literature as such, but the same feature might be seen in a patent application or like even an industrial design application like that. So a researcher having this awareness that whatever I'm actually going to do can appear as part of patent or part of previous research is definitely a good background, a good starting point for their own research, because you know that you're actually doing something now. Otherwise, let's say you might be doing something that is already a feature in an existing product. Even though it is not appearing in a research paper, that particular feature might be in a product. So that's something that I want to add. And lastly, once a patent is granted, like for example, in a research paper, you publish it, and that's all. Like it becomes publicly available, and anybody can access it. And once a patent is granted, it gives you exclusive right to use that. But along with that right comes the maintenance part. It means that the university, who owns the IP, like in this case, like we'll discuss that later on, university actually has submitted the patent application. The university actually has to maintain every year, it has to be renewed. The moment, if you do not renew it, and if you lapse it, it becomes open. It becomes open, and your right actually is no longer right as such. Anybody in the world can make use of that. So that's the addition that I want.
Okay, so then we can understand the importance of the report. Then, if a graduate student focus on drafting a paper, I think will it be a distraction from research work? Can a field patent be considered as a key indicator of research process?
Yeah, I think the basically when you are not aware, when your awareness actually is not really complete, you might actually consider it as a distraction, because in reality, if you are already drafted a research paper and thoroughly reviewed it, and prior to submission, because your contributions are already listed, and based on that research paper, drafting a patent application actually is not much of additional work. It's very little additional work, and very much worth that additional effort also. Because your research paper is one goal. You already actually have achieved your goal if the research paper is to be accepted. They say you already know that this is novel, and your supervisor also basically feel this is novel, and there's a higher chance of acceptance. And if that acceptance actually is, let's say, probability is very high, then taking a little bit more effort, additional effort, you can actually draft a patent application. And so along with that paper, you have a patent application as well, if accepted. If accepted, it's basically dual outcome. Dual outcome, not just a research paper. We have a patent, like you will be getting at the end of the process, a patent as well. So those two outcomes at a very little additional effort is something that I think a researcher can definitely take. And having said that, remember, like the key concern of many graduate students is, if I actually put my effort to drafting patents, will my research lag? Or will I lose my time to conduct research as such? Now we are actually currently discussing at the moment, for example, a research outcome is measured at intervals. We have progress reviews, and in the progress review, like evaluation process, a patent is not an indicator of your research. We are currently discussing with the team of graduate studies as well, to see whether a patent application can be considered as an indicator of research progress. Now, for example, the research, because at progress reviews, there might be a requirement. Okay, that they say, for example, after 1 year, you are expected to have at least one research paper ready. So if somebody says, okay, research paper is not yet ready, but my patent application is ready, can that be considered as a research progress? So we are discussing. I don't know what the outcome would be. So if the progress review evaluation has a IP application or IP mentioned there, then definitely I think it adds a lot of value to the process, because then the researcher becomes aware. Okay, in addition to the papers, there's another part, parallel path, the patent application as well. So in summary, what I want to actually highlight is that it is definitely a minor distraction, but that minor distraction is definitely worth it, because it's not only the dual outcome of a research paper and a patent, but also it actually might generate a lot of future revenue for you as well as a researcher. Because you become inventor and you have economic right to basically, you have the exclusive right to basically make use of your invention for commercial purposes. So basically, the message that I actually want to really pass is, do not actually consider this as a distraction as such. And having said that, not every research outcome is patentable or might not have commercial impact. So in that case, it is completely up to the researcher and or let's say graduate student and respective supervisors to decide whether this can actually go through a patent path as well. And I also want to highlight, when you follow a purely research path, usually there is kind of a disconnect between research world and the commercial world sometimes. When I say commercial world, it's about already products, services, processes that are existing in the real world. And some of these things, as I just mentioned, might not appear in the research literature. Because, let's say, for example, the products or novel products that are coming out of from the industry, they might actually not publish their outcomes as research, but they will definitely protect us as patents or industrial designs, most likely, or even trade secret. So the feature that you are actually, for example, the feature that you are trying to highlight as your own contribution might have already appeared in a patent application. So what we are suggesting actually is like, at the same time having this awareness about the intellectual property, and in addition to the research like literature survey, you can actually search a patent database as well to see whether the idea that you're actually working on, whether it's done there or not. And that part. So having some insights about what is happening in the IP world, what is happening in the commercial world, actually gives a greater insights into research as well, because it helps you to refine your research or do, in fact, a better research. Because you know what you are doing actually is definitely novel. It's not appeared anywhere else. So one outcome that we expect actually is basically this to bridge this disconnect as well for all the researchers. If you're doing completely theoretical research, it might not be applicable to you, but anything that is related to the industry, if a research has a direct relevance to industry, then definitely that insight about the commercialization and the link between the commercialization and the research activity definitely important.
So then I understood the thing is awareness.
When
we come to the conclusion, so we know our contributions and those things are there. We can go for this evaluation, self-assessment, and then easily proceed.
Yeah. The process is not very easy, but already, definitely, because you don't need that much of an additional effort. That's I want to really highlight, because you have already done the hard work by writing the research paper, where the key contributions are already highlighted. So it's just a mapping of those contributions to your patent claims. So we use a different term called claims. Claims are basically what you want to protect. And again, basically highlighting that once a patent actually is granted, and your novelty actually is protected, and you have the exclusive right to basically make use of it, or basically allow others to use, basically by licensing by different ways. So that's actually what we want to highlight.
So in previous questions I asked that when you compare the foreign countries and Sri Lanka and globally, when you compare these things, so then actually I wanted to know that submitting an IP application prior to research paper submission mandatory students?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So as I said earlier, the discussion to submit an IP application is completely with the researcher and the graduate student and the supervisors. But let's say if you do a little bit of search and figure out that submitting an IP application is good, and if the decision is made that you have decided to actually submit an IP application, then it is always first IP application and then the research. Amali can also mention about there is some grace period.
Yeah, so basically as a TTO and normally as norm, we are normally asked for any inventor, they are like to have a patent, better go for a patent first and then apply for a research paper. But some countries, there are something called grace period. Grace period means for the same invention, for the same inventors, there is a particular period of time the same invention can apply for a patent even it is published. But that period is vary from country to country. For an example, in Sri Lanka, we have 1 year period of time. So within that period of time, you may publish your paper, still you have a chance to apply for a patent. USA also same. But some countries like Japan, Australia also grace period is there, but time is different. But European Patent Office, they are not allowed this grace period. So that is the thing. So country to country, jurisdiction to jurisdictions, these things are varying. But still Sri Lanka it is applicable. That's why, for an example, if you have some good product and if you have someone who is like to take license your product in European market, if you do the publication first, then you can't do nothing because in the European Patent Office it is not accepted. That's why though there is a grace period, still we are asking the inventors first go for the patent application and then go for the research paper. And I need to highlight another thing as well. In here we are not asking to wait till it granted. It is a different case because in any patent office, not in even Sri Lanka, even USA, sometimes it may take more than 2 years to grant a patent. So this is not wait till grant a patent to apply the patent. When you are applying your patent application, what happens is then they will issue you a letter with a reference date and a number. So after that date, you can publish. No need to wait till it granted.
Actually, this is a very important point for our students because they whether we go for a research paper or paper. So then we'll give chance then after the discussion starts.
Yeah, so that the most important thing is most of the inventors are thinking they have to wait till grant. No, there's no need to wait till grant, but you need to apply. Then only you get a date, priority date. After that date, anyway, that's why I tell you, even in the prior search, the examiners are checking up to that date. So you have to anyway apply prior to the research paper. Then after that, you can publish. That's how it works.
Okay, then now we discuss then how can we decide whether we can go for the patent and those things. So think then after self-assessment, then we are submitting for that. Then what is the next steps after submitting IP application?
Yeah, I think I'm right.
Yeah, so basically what happened is, I just want to even, Dr. Pascoe also mentioned this one, the patent is actually something costly. Maybe within Sri Lanka, the costs are a bit lower, but if you are comparing the other countries, patent is a costly process because patent, for the application you have to pay, for the examination you have to pay, and definitely you need to maintain the maintenance fee will be there. If we are not doing the maintenance properly, what happens is it will be lapsed. Then it is in the public domain. Then anyone can use it. So that's why it is important we need to identify after we apply a patent, we need to find the way of using the patent as something commercially valuable. That is the most important thing. Just to have an IP protection is not to keep it in a cupboard because we have to maintain. To maintain, we need money. That's why. So that is the link how the commercialization is always linked with this IP part. Because when you have an IP, right, if you need to protect it further, but you need to maintain. So that's why there are two basic methods of doing that. These are globally accepted methods. One is license. So basically, we can license in our invention to a company or an industry who are interested with our products. Maybe that company already established in the market, maybe a new company who are like to invest something new. So in that case, the license are already two types. One is exclusive right, exclusive license. Other one is non-exclusive license. So exclusive license means we are giving our invention for a particular territory and for a particular field for a particular company. For that company only can use. Not we are not giving rights for other company to use. in the exclusive also we can have some differences. For an example, if we are protected our invention in US and Sri Lanka, and we have a US company and Sri Lankan company, they are not working together, then we can give an exclusive right to work in Sri Lanka for one company and give another exclusive right for US on. We can do that way. Or maybe there's a country they are working in both Sri Lanka and US, then we can still offer exclusive right, giving those two protections as together. So anyway, in exclusive, the most important thing is that our invention can be used by a particular single entity based on our terms. When you are going for a non-exclusive license, what happens is for the same invention, we can go for more than one industry. So maybe within the industries, there can be some competitions as well. But these can be very dependent on, there are a few factors we need to decide whether we are going for an exclusive or non-exclusive. But these are there. And also in our system, in our tech transfer office, we already have approved council approved templates for these kind of things. For example, we have council approved patent exclusive license template and non-exclusive license template. Even for the trademark and designs, we have approved templates. These can be speed our process. There may be some changes after the negotiation. Still, the process are now within the line. So I need to, like to tell the researchers, there is a process within the university now. What you have to do is you need to know there's a process to apply. So that is one way. The second way is, if you have a technology and it is your technology and without going for a licensing, still you can have your startup company. Basically, in a term of a startup companies, we are defined as it is newly established venture which is focusing on bringing innovative products to the market. And in that case, the most important thing is normally the startup companies are doing the early stage development. And those are the companies who are trying to build the gap between the laboratory prototype or commercial prototype. So these are the things. So that option already there. So I think we have some more discussion regarding the startup companies later. So I don't want to explain further more about it, but we already need to know there are two options. After you get not only the patent, if you get any kind of IP, those things are there to anyway final our requirement is if you have some protection, that protected invention must be used by the public. To use by the public, someone have to make it. Someone have to convert it to a product that people can use it. That's what we are doing from these processes.
Want to add a few things, Nani, like I think we might not mention the patents are done protected on a territorial basis. It's not a worldwide protection. You don't so once you publish a research paper, as I said, it's publicly available everywhere. There is no protection as such, anyone can use it. But if you want to, for the same novelty, if you want to get a patent, and then patent application need to be submitted to the, for example, if you want to protect something in US or in Europe certain countries, in Japan or China or India or Sri Lanka, then you have to submit separate applications. There is no worldwide, there is nothing called worldwide patents as such. You have to actually go for individual protection because this is yeah, worldwide. Yes, that's a very important part. That's a good question because observation, like when you do the prior art search, you are searching actually all over the world. But when you are protecting on a territorial basis. So what is, let's say, I mean, somebody might get a wrong idea here. Like, so let's say, for example, something is protected in US. The next question might be, okay, can I make use of that patent in Sri Lanka? Because it's not protected in Sri Lanka. But I think that the legal rights are there for you to, they can actually come and sue you, but it might actually take a longer time. But theoretically, if the patent actually is not protected in a particular country, it can be used. Within that country. But there could be some legal implications at that one. So I want to highlight that territorial part. Otherwise, people actually might have this mistaken view that patents are worldwide protected. It's not like that. So if you want to go to a US, then the patent must be submitted to the US patent office, like that. And also the period is 20 years. The applicability of patent actually is 20 years. After that 20 years, it is open to public. So the basic idea is that that's why we right at the beginning actually we were talking about there's parallel path for these patents, but these patents are not to be taken and kept in a cupboard as such, because the expectation is that within that 20 years from the granted date, priority date, right? Priority date 20 years. That 20 years is sufficient for anyone to get the full benefit of that payment. For example, if you economically make use of that, the future revenues, or whatever revenues that you have got, you have obtained sufficient revenues over that 20-year period, and after that, anyone can use it. So that the two things that we want everybody to keep in mind is that territorial part and the patent applicability period is 20 years, but remember, every year you have to maintain it.
So that means that after 20 years, we have to renew something?
No. After 20 years, it is open to public. Okay. Anyone can use it, but all these 20 years, every year you have to maintain it. So that's why there's a maintenance cost. There's maintenance cost. So by just actually getting a patent, and if it is not commercializable, it doesn't actually make that much of sense to get a patent as well. And also remember, again on the same topic, getting a patent usually means a KPI or dual outcome for a researcher, because you have paper and a patent both. But you need to have that additional motivation. You have motivation to go extra mile to commercialize, because getting just a patent actually is not sufficient. There should be commitment from you, some kind of a motivation that, okay, if I commercialize this, so there can be future revenue, and that motivation must be there. So I think it's very important to stress the point. You should not actually stop after getting a patent grant. That's a very important part, because otherwise then this commercialization actually is not possible at all. Because you are interested only in getting a patent and increasing your patent count, but nothing really comes out. And also do remember, as I said, patents need to be maintained. So university also and many other organizations, if a patent actually is not being used, they will not maintain it, because there's no point actually maintaining something that is not generating revenue. So that's something that I want to add.
So then, is the startup a viable option for a graduate student as a career path?
Yeah, okay, that's a difficult question, because the continuation of what I just mentioned, you need that motivation, you need that extra effort to go that extra mile of commercializing your invention, commercializing whatever the research outcome. So as Amali mentioned earlier, we have two broader paths. One is once the technology is developed, we can license it to already an existing industry partner, and if we're willing to do that. And the next option actually is this. If there is nobody is willing to actually license, then you have the option of taking it yourself. Like you can actually do the commercialization, and it's basically you get the license. You get the license to commercialize, and so this forming a startup you need actually a lot of commitment, because it's not a simple effort as such. Now, there are many complications in the sense, like many things to consider. Now, if you look at what graduate students are doing, they are doing their research mostly individually. There might be a group working on a particular broader topic, but your topic that you are working is to be very narrow, and you specialize in that one. And if you want to focus on developing or basically going through a startup to commercialize your invention, and it basically means that you have to put the effort. Okay? You have to put the effort, and so can I do that individually? Can I do that alone? Is the big question that in every graduate student's mind. So doing that alone actually is difficult. Okay? That we have to accept that. Okay, as a company actually cannot run. I mean, you can't have a single person company, and particularly when you talk about commercialization, it is about like taking your lab prototype because you have done sufficient research and proven that it works at a lab level. But when you talk about commercialization, you have to take that whatever that works at the lab level to a level where industry feels this is doable. And there can be a lot of research, a lot of actually development that works perfectly in a lab. But the moment that you take it to the outside world, it might not work at all. So bridging this gap is not an easy task. And the best person to do that is the researchers themselves, because they are the best people. I mean, they are the people who really know how it works. So rather than actually, for example, even if you license it to an industry partner, then the research actually has a commitment to help that the industry partner to commercialize it, because it is your baby, like your invention, and you have the full knowledge of that part. And you definitely need to actually give a helping hand to anybody actually who is trying to commercialize. And if you do that yourself, then again the same effort actually need to be done. Taking that lab prototype to the outside world or to a level where you can attract investor interest is something is a complex process, and it's not in a negative way that I'm actually saying, but you need to have that commitment, because someone actually might say, okay, I want to create a startup without understanding the total gravity of it. What it takes to take a product or a research outcome to the startup is not an easy task. So that motivation, that willingness to basically sacrifice certain things in order to actually spend 2 years of your life, maybe additional 2 years to commercialize, that commitment need to be there. So what we have seen, like in most of the time, is that when you do your masters or PhDs research, at the end of the research you are exhausted, and you do not actually want to take any more like effort to do that. So that might be one of the reasons that our research actually stopped at being research outcome, not really commercialized. But if we do see a market potential, if you do see like a commercial, real commercial value of what you have done, then definitely there is a reason, because there's a future revenue generation, and that future revenue generation could be multiple times more than the typical salary that you get. I mean, even if you actually get a very good salary, and you might actually get from a startup by exiting, or basically by if investor is attracted, and the amount of investment that you might get at exit point might be like even 100 times more than the like 10 times your salary that you will be getting. So the first question actually is like, is it individual like work? So individuals cannot actually do this alone. So we need to actually form a team. And one of the tasks that we as enterprise actually can do is to help that forming a team. Because let's say you have a lab set up and you want to take it to the next level, you need technical help. I mean, in a university, this is the ideal environment. Because, for example, let's say you have a PhD research outcome, I wanted to take it one step further, and I can link it up with, for example, like a final year project. Getting a final year undergraduates to basically get involved and develop it further. So within the university, you can actually do that because you need to develop at least that some research actually might be immediately usable, but very rarely. But most of them will require additional effort. So if we because within a university we have a big talent resource pool is there, students are there, and it's quite possible to actually find that team. And we can, as enterprise, we can definitely help any researcher, any student, or any graduate student who want to actually commercialize, find these additional resources basically to help to develop it to the next level. And the next big question actually is, what is going to, who is going to pay me? Like during this, let's say, for example, 1 year additional development, 2 years additional development, if I actually get employed right after right after my graduation, I will get a salary. But spending 2 years of my life, additional 2 years in order to commercialize, so I will not actually have a cent. So there are ways and means of that. So this is basically trying to say, not to demotivate, but trying to say, okay, there are multiple opportunities for funding. And when you are starting your graduate research, and if the research is connected to the industry, and it's always good to actually have that interaction ongoing, because if you are doing something relevant to the industry, at certain point the industry might be very interested in what you're doing. So by the time you complete your research, and they might be willing to actually fund you to commercialize. So they will pay you, or they will actually recruit you full time to do the commercialization. That's actually one way of getting this additional how to sustain these 2 years. The other one, if you actually go through the startup path, in many universities worldwide, top universities worldwide, so this is a major problem, because you have a lab setup, it works properly, but taking it to the outside level involves a lot of risk. And normally the industry doesn't want to actually take that risk as such. And that's why most of the time, we find licensing is a difficult task. Because licensing basically means you are taking a university research and you want to actually take it to the market, but there's a gap that you need to bridge. And that gap actually could be riskier. That gap might require even 4 or 5 years to bridge. So sometimes industry might not be willing, unless this research outcome actually is something they definitely want to commercialize. So in many universities worldwide, like reputed universities, they have what they call a pre-seed fund. A pre-seed fund is where there is inherent this university research actually has an inherent risk, actually has a much higher risk in commercialization. And acknowledging that one, the universities have set up a fund to do the bridging part. So it's basically say, okay, we know this is risky, but we will fund you because there's a potential, and we will fund this let's say we will fund for 2 years. 2 years, and pre-seed fund actually is the purpose of that fund, and you will be obviously evaluated and monitored because somebody is putting a lot of money. So the basic objective of pre-seed fund is to, because it's a very risky part of taking a lab prototype to the industry, and nobody in the industry is willing to do that. So the universities actually have this fund. So they will do obviously filtering. Not every research, if everybody basically comes and say, I want to do a startup, the university will not actually select every startup as such, but they will do a very rigorous evaluation and filter and select few startups to get this pre-seed funding. So we as enterprise are currently looking at the possibility of setting up a pre-seed fund, at least a very limited fund to support few projects using with the support of some expatriates. So very preliminary stage at the moment. But without that sort of a fund, some other research outcomes, some very promising research outcomes that we see at the university might not actually see the commercialization. Even in it's very promising, but somebody need to invest in order to make it commercial, because it doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen actually like magic. So you need funding. You need put additional. You need the human resources, and that's why I said that part, university is an ideal place, because if you can somehow sort out the funding issue, the extra resources that you need is all available at the university. So we can always pair a PhD research out, PhD student or already graduate student with the undergraduates to do this extra development. I think the motivation for any graduate student actually is, even though startup is a riskier path, obviously the riskier path, higher the risk, higher the returns. So you might actually come up with a very disruptive type of product if you want to pursue that path. It's not for everyone, but I think I'm sure that if you are aware of these different paths, there will be people who might be interested a lot in pursuing this path as well.
Yes, then when we consider the enterprise, higher the risk, higher the returns.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Amal, how can enterprise help in startup journey?
Basically, enterprise, we have a separate incubator space, that is the number one thing. So, in the incubator space, what we are doing is we are selected the startups within the university startups, and then we'll give the free space for them. The basic facilities, that means office facilities are there, but anyway it is within the university, so there are labs within the university. So basically the labs can be used after free request for a particular nominal fee, but the most important thing is access is there every time, because they are the students who are working within the university, their office also within the university. And also because of that, after they are signed the startup agreement with us, they can use the university address as well as one of their alternative address to use their communications as well. And this is another thing. And also we are helping them to build a team. I think Dr. Pascoe clearly mentioned there's the importance of building a team. So we can help as an enterprise to build a team as well for those startups. Other than that, we can help them to secure the funding, not only by the free seed funding already we are trying to do. Other than that, there are so many funds outside, and the pitching competitions and so many different type of competitions are there. Even currently we are trying to do is, we are linked with those competitions and we are asking them to participate. And most of them, if they are selected, their fund is secure. So those things are there. Other than that, most important things is, we have a good set of mentoring within our setup. As an enterprise operation committee also, there are so many experts, external members are there. Other than that, in our course, there are so many experts who are knowing this thing, especially how to do a company registration, simple things like that. Even how to get a legal background, how to get a legal advice, from where we get an advice for the secretariat services, how you organize your company, and how we are doing your marketing. Those things are really important for a startup company at the beginning. So these kind of mentoring can be given by the given by the enterprise without any separate fee. So those are the basic things we are doing at the enterprise to support them as a separate entity. And also I need to highlight that even our university policy, there's a thing called first right to refusal. That means if you are an inventor who is really like to take your invention to go for a commercialization, still is there an outsider, a reputed company is there, still university giving the chance to you to use your invention to go for commercialization by using a startup company. That provision also still there within the university.
So actually, who own the IP and what is the
Before that, I want to just highlight another important aspect. So when you talk about startups, people think, okay, I mean, the US is well known for startups. For example, Israel actually is known as a startup nation. I mean, in Europe and in some other countries also, there are very active startup hubs. So you get this mindset, okay, this is, are we talking only about the developed countries when you talk about startups? That's not the case. If you look at our neighboring India, India is, I think, as of now, is having the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. So just to be, so because we are not actually comparing a developed country versus us, I want to actually show this. This is IIT Madras. And IIT Madras is India's most active startup hub. And what you see there, is basically all the technology, different domains where the IIT Madras actually submitted patents. They have actually granted patents. Granted patents. I mean, you can see most of these domains that are there. Can I go back to the previous one? You see these areas are very much aligned with what we do at Moratuwa, except few, almost like maybe 90% of these areas are exactly matching with what we do at Moratuwa. So another important part that you need to keep in mind is that when a startup actually comes out of a PhD research program or master's research, and there is a lot of science and engineering inside that. So what it means is basically, and if you do a little bit of analysis about startups, like the type of startups out there, you can see there are many startups working in the same area. And there are many areas where what we call there's low barrier to entry. Anybody can actually, let's say, go into that area and create a company and actually be part of it. But obviously, you are just one part of many, many hundred companies. But when a startup actually comes out of your research, and we tend to actually call it deep tech startups, and deep tech startup because there is a very much science and engineering foundation for the startup, and it is only you can do that. No one else actually will be able to do that, and there is a natural barrier to entry. Okay? So if you can go through that path, commercialization, obviously going to a startup, then you will have obviously a very high probability of actually generating a lot of revenue. So what you see like in this slide is some of the patent, the granted patent areas in IIT Madras. They call technology portfolio. So we have picked actually few areas to highlight. So, for example, now everyone, almost all the universities and worldwide, we're talking about AI and machine learning. So you can see this is the IIT Madras granted patents. Okay? Granted patents are basically it's called IDF number, or what they call information disclosure form. So this is those who have submitted novel contributions, novel for protection. So they have most of these are granted patents. These in AI and machine learning and electronic circuits. You can see a huge list from IIT Madras. Basically, all these are mentioned, and these are listed as potential technologies anybody can license. For example, if I'm actually looking at I have a certain problem, and solution actually might be there in one of these contributions, then I can actually go and talk to IIT Madras and basically license. So that is actually what we are expecting now. So we expect our research outcomes to be available as technologies that outsiders can actually come and license, actually look at it. So the benefit that I told you at the beginning, that there's a bit of disconnect between commercial world or industry and research in Sri Lanka, particularly because if you start your research with some industry knowledge, and the industry is aware that you are doing this type of research, I think there is a very much higher chance of commercialization, and you will go to startup path. So these electronic circuits, there are some other areas, these medical and surgical devices. All these are coming out of IIT Madras, robotics and automation, and then civil infrastructure and structural engineering. I mean, we have a very big civil engineering department. So these are like environmental engineering, and all these areas, they are granted patents, and these patents are available for any outside party to come and actually license it and make use of that. If you go to the next one, as I said, IIT Madras is the most active startup hub in India. You can see like number of patents filed, 1,300 plus, and incubator startups 200 plus, and the startup different startup sectors. These 200 plus startups are in 13 sectors, and these are deep tech incubators. These are all actually coming out of masters and PhD research. So we do not need to go far. See, basically taking US as an example, or Israel as an example, or Europe as an example, as such, our neighboring country is doing a lot more than what we are doing. So I think as we began with talking about the awareness, and the awareness is the key, that you have this potential parallel path that you can take in addition to your research paper publication on it. Yeah, so these are the incubation cells, similar to the incubator that we have. There's so much of startups. I mean, for many of them, the startup is a natural path, because you have already created an ecosystem, and there is a being part of a startup. Actually, for them, it is much better than being employed in a well-known organization. So that's why you see a lot of startups being created on a daily basis in India. We want to actually have that culture within Sri Lanka, and start with actually particularly deep tech startup. And if you look at the startup ecosystem in Sri Lanka, there is very minimal deep tech startups in Sri Lanka, because deep tech startups are basically startups coming out of pure research, and we don't have that thing. For example, like Moratuwa being one of the best best resource pool in terms of students, and we have a golden opportunity to basically to go in that path. But obviously, as I said, awareness and the motivation to go that extra mile is extremely important. So that's, I think, I think you can ask next question, which is also very important part for the inventors.
Basically, I asked you said about the ownership and the financial benefit for inventors.
Yeah, so basically, when we are talking about the ownership, this is something I think globally accepted. In anywhere around the world, the default is normally the university or the IP. The same is applicable for us as well. But there may be some exceptions as well. If you have some prior agreements which is signed by some industries, so then it will be applied. Or maybe based on case by case, based on how much effort the inventors, including the finance and other details, how they are doing that. Based on that, there may be some ways, but still, the ownership is most probably with the university. That's the normal norm. I think this is the accepted norms around the world. But still, the universities are giving the promotion to the or inventors. That's how it works. Basically, if we are talking about University of Moratuwa, our portion is 40% is goes to the university and 60% is goes for the inventors. So this 40% include all the IP cost as well. So because the IP costs are basically bear by the university, not by the inventors, and even the application, the filing, those things are already done by the university. So that's how the ownership and the benefits are going between the universities and the inventors.
So the 60% actually, Nani, is fairly significant. For example, when you talk about, let's say, if you are, let's say your research outcome is resulting in a patent or trade secret, even for example, like process, and it is licensed by an outside party, you get paid. University, in order to license, you need to pay the actual partner need to pay the university. Out of that licensing fee, the university will keep 40%, as Amali mentioned, for cover the cost of the patent application and all that, and 60% goes to the inventor. And if, for example, let's say your technology is used in a product, and once the product actually goes to the market, and you generate royalty revenues out of it. I think one of the very well-known royalty revenue in Sri Lanka is this BioClean from University of Colombo. I think everybody knows that. So they get a revenue. And every time the university gets a revenue, the inventors get a part of that one, 60% of that one. So that's like to us, not lifetime, but to us, let's say 5 years or 10 years, or depending on the agreements, you will get that financial benefit by having going through this path. Obviously, motivation and willingness to go that extra mile is obviously required. You can't just stop acquiring a patent as such. That's finance.
Now, shall we give time for this?
Yeah, definitely. Before that, I want we want to just actually make aware like our contact information. So anybody who is actually interested in actually like getting more information can either send an email to this given email address or directly contact us over the phone.
Okay, thank you so much. So actually we learned a lot today. But the thing is, this is just introduction because we cannot cover all the things this limited time. So this is a special request from our students. And then can we continue this type of 2-3 session to?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of information to be shared, but I think putting that in a single session is almost like impossible. We can definitely look at it.
Because when if you're planning to do that kind of mechanism to include the patents and things in the progress review panel, those things. So it is better to bear these students, and many students interested for them. That's why actually we got some emails from students. That is why our deans contacted you both. Then, so thank you so much for your time and contributions. And I know, surely know our students done a lot, and it will be remarkable staging their research life as well. Then when they are think whether they are going what way the department is looking, whether they are going on publishing a research or whether they are going for a patent. Then you discuss and how can we go with both. So therefore it's really very important. Thank you so much, you both.
Thank you very much for the opportunity also to talk to the students.
Dear participants, thank you so much. So we'll meet another fruitful discussion again. Then you can send your request, suggestions. So it's really very important to improve our program and also to add this kind of new things to our research. Thank you so much.
Yes,